Ouija, New Beginning is a 2025 film written and directed by Jason Hawkins, and we have a cast including Elissa Dowling, Tamara Glynn, Sanae Loutsis, Holland Harvana Elizabeth, and several others. Great performances, no problems there. With regards to the narrative and the horror, one is great, one's not so great. And the great aspect is the narrative. I actually found the story to be really interesting. It's about a young girl who finds a Ouija board and wants to communicate with her late father, and she's having problems with school and things, and it's interesting enough. I feel like, as a character, really great, really well written. The story is interesting. The progression of the narrative is a little slow, but in general, the pacing's not too bad, and it progresses at a pretty steady rate. It does take a very long time, though, for anything even remotely horror to come into it. And once it does, there's not really anything there, and that's the bit where the film really lets itself down. There's not really anything in this that's scary. There's no horror aspect. Obviously, that's a slight exaggeration. We have a Ouija board, which in itself is, of course, a horror aspect, but there's nothing scary about this. And I'm not even saying that as a seasoned horror fan. It does take a lot to scare me, but judging this as objectively as possible, there's just not a lot in this that could cause fright. There are a couple of, I guess, slightly intense moments, that's maybe too strong a word, but kind of jump scary moments, which are absolutely fine. But in general, it's not a scary film at all. So if you're new to horror and you're not sure if you will do well with really scary films and you want to kind of ease yourself in, this is a good story. The narrative is very good, but it's not scary. And I have to say as well, IMDb listed it as a thriller, not a horror, but I don't think it really fits into either. But if you want to see if maybe you can start to watch films about Ouija boards, more kind of paranormal, supernatural films in that regard, then maybe this could be a good one to start with, because it's not particularly scary. In fact, there's no horror in this at all. But it's a decent story, and the characters are well written, the characters are likeable, the narrative is really good. So, in general, as long as you're not looking for a scary experience, it's okay. It's not a bad film. But if you're looking for a horror, if you're looking for a scary film, then unfortunately Ouija, A New Beginning is not going to tick that box. But as a story, pretty good. So do I recommend it? Not to horror fans, but if you're wanting to start to get into horror, then maybe it could be a good entry level for that. So I recommend it to some people, not to horror fans. But if you want to dip your toes in and see how you do with this, and then see if you're maybe ready to progress to actual horror films, then maybe it's a good one to go with. Ouija, A New Beginning is not scary, it's not a horror, but the story is pretty decent.